Hello everyone and welcome to another live stream here on the twitch.tv/the Xisuma, where we are playing on Hermitcraft. Once again, we were on here yesterday, we're back on here today. We're back at it. Back in the groove, doing the things as we always do. Today I've got a list. I prepared that list yesterday. So therefore, I don't actually know what the immediate plan is. But at some point I'll pick up my notes and we'll be good. Right. This thing's been turned off. Through we go. We got bananas in chat from Becca and Forgil. And Zora Spinamana. Thank you for the bananas. Lets me know that we're live. You're on the Twitch. Aha, let's go down. Oh yeah, they're just some items that have been spitting off the edges, which seems to happen on occasion over here. Otherwise, most of the stuff goes into here, as you can see. So while people tune in, I'm gonna spoil you with the delights, the pleasures, the entertainment of crafting bones into bone blocks. Oh god, I spoil you lot, don't I? I spoil you rotten. Kodakai says, Hermitcraft, hello. Hello. I think that's excitement. That's my guess. If we need more, we'll grab more. Let's start the craft. Okay, none up here. Some at this spot. What you should do, as I've learned, is take 5 out of each of them so that the hoppers behind them can start draining. That's the trick. That's the trick. My Fitch, I think is how I say your name, is here for 2 months. Hi X, how are you today? Good, thanks for asking. Good. And guess what I got? Oh my god. God, imagine if I had forgot. Got a decaf coffee here. I had some breakfast today. I usually just do 2 meals a day, and I was just out on a morning walk, walking the dog, and I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna have a breakfast today. I like my 2 meals a day. But at the moment, I talked about it yesterday, I've just been a bit, like, on the energy side, so I was like, I'll have a breakfast. So I've, gone for a walk. Sundays I always treat like a day off, so I don't do any of my, like, morning routine and exercises and stretches and stuff. I just go straight out for a walk. And yeah, easy peasy little day. That's what it feels like. An easy peasy day. Starry Ravens, thank you ever so much for the Prime, and Saka J90, thank you for 18 months, greatly appreciated. Do you prefer mining or crafting, X? I tend to do a lot more crafting than mining, it feels like, especially in these scenarios. It's funny because they're actually... Right, crafting is cool when you first introduce to the game. Then it just becomes a chore, basically, a thing that you do. Mining, obviously, is better than that. It's more interesting. You gather resources, you have adventures in the caves. But I've done that many times over the years. It's been renewed lately with 1.18 and the caves and the cliffs. But for me, the game is all in the redstone contraptions, the creation of farms, and building too, of course. All of that stuff's super fun. The caves did renew caving indeed. Oh yes, they did. I mean, ultimately, still a very similar experience, but just much more interesting and fun to traverse. And I feel like the scale and the size of the caves gives them legs, right? Because caves used to be like really small and windy, and occasionally you'd find something a little on the large side, but that was kind of it, you know? And so they felt very samey for a long time. Whereas once you make the caves bigger and grander, they're naturally going to have more variance and more interest, I guess, like the possibility for more interesting configurations. So eventually we'll get used to seeing those big old caves, but they will always be big and interesting. Now, thanks to the changes that they made. I think the few things that could be done to improve the Caves and the Cliffs update, I feel like the underwater caves were perhaps underutilized, right? They should have put materials in the waterlogged caving system that gave you an incentive to go there and get them. That would have been a real interesting move. Let's do that. Get back up top. Jake Motionless says RIP TFC. RIP TFC indeed. Here's the thing, I didn't stream for a few days because I didn't know how I was going to talk about TFC. And it wasn't until a little story popped into my head, or some words to share about TFC, that I felt like, you know, I can get back into this because people want to talk about it. People want to ask about TFC. And it will be hard to sit there seeing so many questions about TFC and not being able to talk about it. Right? Now I am expecting that on the basis that all of my comments in my recent videos have been about TFC. Which, if it's not obvious, is not a problem. I'm not making a complaint. It's like, that's just the situation. So you're constantly reminded of it. Because I read my comments a lot. I didn't want to, you know, just shelter away from it. And so yesterday when I streamed, I was totally expecting some questions about TFC. I talked to my mods saying, hey, like, there's a good chance we're going to get like a lot of TFC comments, and that's not spam, but when a lot of people ask the same thing over and over again, it can be difficult to handle. Right, so we sort of said that this is grieving. It was like the Technoblade thing. This is people grieving. They go around the internet leaving their comments, right? Sometimes we get annoyed when we see something over and over again. When people are grieving, let them grieve in the way they need to grieve. Alright? So, if anyone wants to talk about TFC in chat, they are most welcome to. If every message in the chat is about TFC, that is the way that we grieve. So that's what it'll be. So that's why I needed to be like ready in order to sit here with that, because it's been difficult, as you can imagine. And yeah, pretty much no one yesterday, I never spotted a single TFC message, nor did any of my moderators, or at least the moderators I've talked to. And that was very strange. Now I think people just kind of knew here on Twitch it's different to on YouTube, and just to leave it alone. That's what I'm thinking. But for so many people to think that way collectively is very interesting. And only now at the beginning of this one did I spot a message. I can't read all the messages in my stream, but I did notice the one just now, which was perfectly fine. And that was the first one that I've seen. So in a little whiles we'll talk a little bit more about TFC. For me, the way that I deal with grief, I think is unhealthy, but maybe not as well, because I'm a very self-aware person. I think about how I think. I pay attention to what's going on in my own head. So what I did on the news of TFC's passing is sort of just knuckle down into work mode. Like, it's gonna sound weird to say, but the last few days have been extremely, like the last week has been extremely productive for me. I have not sat around wasting time, which is probably a good response to, you know, death. Don't waste your time. But what I do, I think I like compartmentalize or something, because every now and then I would just like take a moment when something would hit me and like get teary-eyed and feel all the feelings, and then like, you know, 10 minutes later I'd just slam the door on it and go straight back to what I was doing. That reminds me, I haven't dealt with a lot of death and grief in my life, but that is how I remember dealing with it most of the time. It's like boiling vegetables or something. You know, like the lid starts to rattle, and so you open it off and you let out all the steam, and then you put it on again, and then it starts rattling again, and then you let out all the steam. That's just how I deal with it. And so, you know, I would be doing this, I'd be doing that, and then I would start to think about TFC, and I would just like, I don't know, go read some comments or browse the Reddit, and it would like come out for a little bit, and then I would just stop and put the lid on it and then just go back to whatever else I was doing. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but like that's just how I think I grieve. Could you share a memory about you and TFC? I will. I just I want to articulate myself well, so I want to get to a point in this stream where we're doing something like we're doing right now, and then I'll tell you the little story. Forgil saw one person saying something about it and wishing all the hermits the best. Yeah, it's very interesting just to see just such a large collective of people. We had over 1,000 consistent viewers, and there were probably several thousand people tuning in and out, and everyone just kind of had the respect for the space of the streamer, which is amazing to see. And you know, I think saying it like that almost makes it sound like if you were to say something you weren't respecting the streamer. That's not what I mean. It just, everyone seemed to know not to talk about it right now, which was very interesting. Not what I expected at all. Starry Ravens is here with the... Wait, we read that one, but I'll read them again because I've been waffling. Starry Ravens with the Prime, Saka J90 for 18 months, King Moth subscribing. We got Shawnee YX for 42 months. Crazy Eyes here with the Prime, Haley Bailey for 22 months. You enjoyed the episode yesterday. Haley Bailey, that was the first time in a long time that I made an episode in a single day. And again, I talked a little bit earlier about like being focused. Usually I break my day up a lot more with other stuff, but I just wanted to like knuckle down and do something. And I just had so much spontaneous fun, and you know, that's what TFC would want for us to do on the servers. Just, you know, continue enjoying and doing what we do. And it reminded me a little bit of like season 2 of Hermitcraft and season 3, where I used to pump out episodes like every other day. And it's just a strange thing when that happens sometimes. Strange things. The Moo Balls here for 9 months. Twitch baby animation on the screen. Hey X and chat, it's been quite a while. Still have a bit of uni work to do, but I thought I'd try and catch a stream before I get too piled in with work. Cool, glad to have you. I hope the uni work's going well. I've been waffling for 12 minutes and I got a hot cup of tea here. It's time to drink some of that. It's Who is TFC, says the Ender Pro. He is the tinfoil chef, the one and only, who is the truest hermit of all. I've always said that. He's he embodies the hermit spirit. And every season just religiously branch mines. And that's his thing. And he passed away. And it was sort of sudden, out of the blue, and very sad. But I've been thinking, you know, TFC has talked about health issues so much over the years. It sort of just becomes like a normal thing, and you forget how important health is. And I guess it kind of makes sense in a ways that eventually those health issues caught up with him. And there have been details shared of how he actually passed, but I won't reiterate them myself because I'm bad at specifics and will probably butcher the explanation. Right, let me highlight my list. There it is. Okay, so there's something cool we can do. Yeah, we can do a couple of cool things while we have a little chat today. I say cool things. I mean just something simple to crack on with. Like we can do some stuff and talk about TFC. Is Hermitcraft just a crad? Crad? Don't know what crad means. What is a crad? Death is a major stressor. Most people are careful not to push their views. Their views on death. Yeah, we all know. Yeah, I guess you're saying we all have that level of respect around death, right? It's been an interesting thing for us to navigate because we've never had to deal with this before, and I think what we've learned through talking about it and whatnot is that we're not in a structure like a team, like a football team might come together for a minute's silence to commiserate another player who's fallen or something. That's how that sort of environment works with death and these things. For us, we're a big group of individuals in a creative space where our creativity is all different and unique from one another, and our creativity is tied up with our personalities, how we feel about things, and so it's hard for us to... That arm stand should be invisible. Why is it not anymore? It is hard for us to collectively agree on some sort of thing that we feel is like what we should do, and there's been somewhat of a audience expectation for us to get together and do some sort of tribute for him. And I think ultimately we've realized that as much as many of us want to do something collectively, we're not sure what that should be, and not everyone does. So we need to, I think, act as a group of individuals and do our own individual thing. We've also got something we're going to do, I think all of us, I don't know, I certainly won't be putting it in a video or anything like that, but we got a little activity prepared to spend some time together and honour TFC. And so when it comes to like grieving and whatnot, we all grieve in different ways, and we just got to understand and respect that, right, and give everyone their space in the way of doing it. And this includes sometimes people grieving, let's say, might be a bit harsh, but destructive ways. So everyone's probably heard a story about how someone goes off the rails when they grieve or whatnot. You even have to give people respect and space in those situations too, you know. We all react to this stuff differently. So, we're going to do one of them over here, I believe. Extend any road by 16 blocks. Now, these ask for granite and deep slate. And I do wonder if there's like some communal pool somewhere for when you want to build roads, because those are the materials for roads. I don't know what Ren's plan was for that, but there probably is, and I probably don't know about it. Anyway, an extra shard for us today. We're going to go restock the shops next, and then we're going to build some roads, and we'll take a moment to sleep in the bed. And I'm going to take a moment to drink this gorgeous tea. Decaf coffee. Mercury Explorers, thank you for 21 months of support with the Prime. Appreciate it ever so much, and I hope you're enjoying the stream. No, I just thought it was subscriber chat only, says Hermitcraft guy. My chat is follower only, just to encourage all of you to follow. So if you want to join in the chat, hit the follow button. And if you don't, hit the follow button anyway. Come on now. Follow me here on Twitch. Jeez. So we built this in yesterday's episode of Hermitcraft. It is not finished. There are a couple more trees to build in the area, which we'll come back to later. There's a bit of path building to do in this spot. I know Pearl wants to handle some of these paths. Now, I did say to her, or we did communicate that I could build this bit, and that was going to be more of an organic path. So then I think it doesn't make sense for me to come in and try and build whatever this other one is. However, we could do a little something for the other connection. So there's this connection here. We could have something come up the hill and simply go across to Hypno's Honey Shop, which I've never been inside of. It's a very cool build. I just haven't been inside of here. Dang, beautiful. Oh, candles. Hypno, you're sold out. God, the candles look good, didn't they? Let's fly over to my bone shop. We've got to restock that, then come back here and build a path. We got Valen here with the Prime. Jive Turkey with the Prime. Chimera Dev for 5 months. Thank you so much for your support. Arister, or let's say Erisa Strange, thank you for the lovely message. Appreciate it. So yeah, let's have a chat about TFC then. I wanted to tell y'all the story of how TFC joined Hermitcraft. Do any of you know this? Are any of you Hermitcraft historians out there in the know? I'll be interested to see if anyone in chat actually knows the story. Most people are saying no, they don't. So Firelord does, so Firelord knows. It was just before I started watching Hermitcraft as a baby orca. You've been around for a long time then. A long time. I'm a pretty new Hermitcraft enjoyer, says Sunny Ferret. Yeah, so this goes back years. Guesstimating, let's see. 2011 was Season 1. So I think it would be late 2012, 2013 that TFC joined, the Tinfoil Chef. Right, I need to grab 2 boxes for the next bit. And they should both... yeah, they're both here. There we go. Also, I can put these all away. So the story of TFC joining our server kind of starts with Generic B leaving in Season 1, basically, because we were left without a leader, and that led to a fair bit of chaos in terms of making decisions as a group. You know, inviting new people, any kind of collective, let's do this thing, let's do that thing. Everything was a bit of a disorganized mess. And if you look at the history of Season 2, you will see that a lot of people both joined and left Hermitcraft over the course of that season. Now, Season 2 is one of my favourites, mainly because it was the first season I was a full-time YouTuber, and I was just living the dream, let's say, okay? The dream was, you know, watching other Minecraft Let's Players, and especially the Minecraft adventures unfold on their server, and then having my own opportunity to do that myself. Despite, you know, it being such a nice experience for that reason, there was a lot of chaos and stuff when it came to making decisions as a group, and it was towards the mid to the end of that season that I just decided, I think we need leadership, right? Like, before when we had Generic, like, I might not have agreed with all the things that he wanted to do or whatnot, but the fact that he was someone who could say this is what we're doing was really valuable. It's important to move in a direction together as a group, even when you don't fully agree with everything. And remember, we're talking about a creative space here. Like, disagreements on, I don't know, political or big issues, they're just creative things. You have different visions, different ways you see yourself playing the game. But anyway, we needed leadership, and you know, I consider myself now to have some form of leadership skills. I've learned a lot about how to work with other people over this time, and my current role here on Hermitcraft is just to be of service to other people. Like, I'm just trying to be as helpful as I can. When someone's like, oh, I've got a problem with this mod, or I need help with some redstone, I just want to step up and help. Like, that's my current position. To try and be helpful. But anyway, back then it was like, I felt like we needed leadership. I've told this story a gazillion times before, right? But this is kind of like where it starts with TFC joining, because I stepped up, and then we were able to, like, make some decisions. We wanted to create a cohesive Hermitcraft lineup. We had so many people just coming in and out, not really committing. We wanted to create a core group of hermits, and this coincided with us having our second wind in Season 2, where there was a big update and we all collectively moved together to this new area, and this was possible thanks to, you know, having leadership, being able to communicate across a group of people and saying, this is what we've agreed to do, we're going to go over here, we're going to build shops, which I think was Cleo's idea, if I'm not mistaken. Cleo just started, hey, let's make shops over in this area, and then that became like a big thing. We didn't do it in Season 3, but we brought it back in Season 4, and then it's kind of been a staple since then, to have a shopping area, right? We got a noise in the ear, it's Mr. No-Gate. Thank you ever so much for your Prime, dude, appreciate it. That's some good coffee right there. In fact, I'm just going to finish this off. Alright, bear with me a little bit longer. Please. Oh, it's so good. And that's the last of it, right. So yeah, one of the things that we had was not only people like coming and going from the server, but we also had a Hermitcraft modded server, and because that ran with, again, no leadership, like whoever set up that server and played on there kind of agreed on who could join it and not, which is, I always have to make this clear, it's not a problem that things played out that way. Like, there was no ill will about it, it was just a case of there was a group of us that had a desire for Hermitcraft to be a singular thing. And so we said, right, let's make a cohesive lineup between these servers. And so, you know, who's on Hermitcraft, who's active, looking to be a part of it going into the future, and the same thing on modded, right? And TFC was one of the people who was playing on the modded server. If I remember correctly, his reputation was pretty much as a mod player, not a vanilla player at the time. Although I'm sure he played plenty of vanilla. And he was one of the ones who wanted to come and join us. And so we made this cohesive lineup of like, okay, we're going to, you know, anything modded Hermitcraft will be the same as vanilla Hermitcraft, and everyone's invited to play on both, and this is our group moving forward. And TFC joined us through that moment. And he came onto the vanilla world, and he moved in just sort of a little bit away from our new communal area, and just had this massive area full of like giant portals and all sorts of cool farms and interesting stuff. And I remember hooking him up with a station on our metro line so that he had a I think he was the only hermit that had a base on the line, so like you could travel from the different shopping areas and then you could go right up to TFC's doorstep, which was super cool. And that was how TFC joined. And then since then he's just, you know, been a legend amongst the group, doing Minecraft his way, forever branch mining. And I think TFC's one of his best moments was Season 3 of Hermitcraft, where we had this communal area just full of all sorts of oddball type builds, and he came over there and he built a giant hairy green eyeball in the sky. It was just like he was looking around at us doing all this weird crazy stuff, and he was like, I'm gonna give that a go, and just came up with this brilliant build that everyone remembers from Season 3. Gosh, that LA build is adorable, says Miss Madness. Yes, this is what we built in the previous episode. Oh, that's what it was, says Clara Farah. Yes, that is what it was. A giant green hairy eyeball. And when people go and explore the Season 3 world, that's one of the things I think they know. Oh, I thought that was Monkey Man who built the eye. Monkey Farm had a base near the farm. It was the eye. It was down on the ground. And it was, I think it was just a little building, but it then led off to his base, which was like behind some mountains. And Monkey Farm's another legend who joined Hermitcraft, but has since kind of moved on from all of that. So yeah, some Hermitcraft history for you there. The story of TFC joining, and you know, sadly now he's passed on, but forever a Hermitcraft legend, right? There is a big influencer on YouTube that asked to join Hermitcraft, says Real Shofu. I know a lot of people asked to join Hermitcraft or talk about it. It's really weird. It's really weird because my personal like experience, adventure on Hermitcraft, however you want to word it, it started being the underdog, right? When we got started, we were no one. And we did this for the love of it. And then there was this moment in time when you realized, hang on, like, we're now the server that other people talk about. When I started, it was all about Minecraft. Those were the guys that came along and sort of showed you, hey, playing together on a server is great. For some reason, like, survival Minecraft players all did their own little worlds and didn't really come together. Like, you didn't see a lot of SMPs. And then Minecraft switched it, and then everyone wanted to be an SMP. And, you know, there was a bunch of us who all enjoyed their stuff. We got together and did our own thing. And that was kind of the beginning of this. And, you know, we just kept doing it and doing it over the years, and it grew into something, I don't know what words you want to use, colossal. But it certainly grew into something, didn't it? And TFC was a part of that journey. Right, so we've got like a 3, a 1 and a 3. I think I want to kind of like map out where this is going to go to the part that we're going to build today at least. So I think I'm just going to focus on like keeping this little lane going all the way through this area. You can see someone else has been here and tried to do this before. In fact, probably needs to get a little bit higher around here, so let's say we go, let's give it like 4 blocks at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there was one other thing. I'm going to struggle to word this because it's kind of like a personal thing that I don't want to give away too much information about, right? But let's say this, like in a moment of hardship and darkness that was really quite difficult for not only myself, but some others too. In a discussion, TFC came through. I never forget his words, like, and just had this short little speech about how proud he was of all of us, and like what we were doing, and it took a difficult moment and flipped it on its head. And like people talk about how he had like a great attitude and stuff, and like, you know, I can't get into the specifics of what it was about, but it was just something that like totally shook me. It was like, wow. It showed us like how much what we did meant to him, and how much what we were doing was the right thing. And it was just this like kind of like everyone's got those moments in your life where you just don't forget that thing. And yeah, that was one of the moments we shared with TFC. And I'm forever grateful for him for saying those things, because they help so much. Because not all positivity is rational, right? But what he said was perfectly rational too. And yeah, it was just a beautiful moment. It kind of just came out of nowhere. Yeah. Crazy. Life is crazy. Right, I now need some dirt and grass. Where on earth can I get some from, eh? Kalo Cat, though, like, what he said is not public knowledge, or like, was not publicly aired, and it will stay that way. You know, not all conversations and things that happen are for everyone to know about, right? Like, sometimes things happen in life that just need to stay between certain people. And it was just in one of those moments that was difficult and dark, he just sort of came through and gave us something great to think about. And I'm forever grateful for that. And it's just like the words just echo in my head. Can we get a skeleton hug animation? I feel like we all need a hug. Absolutely. For all of y'all out there. Thanks for listening to me tell you the story of TFC. That means a lot. Mr. Nogate, thank you for the Prime, and Panda PLS, thank you for your Prime subscription too. Appreciate it. TFC sounds like a nice person, says the Ender Pro. He was a great person. Yeah, he was a very nice person. And one of the things that happened, like, recently, was it last season, season 8, there was a little bit of a, air quotes, controversy or whatever about something that he had said. I made a video about it on my Xisuma Sedge channel, if ever you want to go watch it. And I think his response to all of it was pretty amicable too. It just reminds me, like, what makes a good person is often how you are and how you act with others. And sometimes people's, like, views of the world and whatnot, or takes on whatever the topic of the day is, like, that stuff is, like, means so little in comparison to how you treat and deal with other people sometimes. I think I went one too high here. I think I'm just going to skip the last bit down and keep it at this level. And so yeah, TFC's, you know, an older guy from an older generation where different ideas and whatnot about this and that circulated, but, like, ultimately, you know, how he is towards other people and whatnot, that's your true character. And he had true character. Your actions reflect who you are, says Real Shofu. Absolutely, yeah. Anyway, he will be missed, and I feel like I would like to just... let's leave it there, right? I could probably talk for much longer, but I feel like, you know, let's move on for now. Kordishi, thank you for tuning in. You catch a lot of the streams, but you're happy to catch important ones like this. It was important to say all of that, yeah. I needed to get that off my chest, you know. Hack Maniac, thank you ever so much for 2 months of support. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the stream. Why wasn't he in any of the Hermit's episodes? Because he was the truest hermit of all. He was a, you know, he was a hermit. He would come on, go down into his branch mines, mine for ages, and then, you know, he'd go. You know, we'd see TFC quite often at meetings and group discussions and whatnot, and he'd come by when he could, but when he came onto the server to do his thing, he would just do his thing and branch mine, right? Nate Vortex Miner, thank you ever so much for the Prime subscription. Appreciate your support. So I feel like just around this bit we probably want to drop it down again. Let's actually start that just somewhere here. And then we'll probably drop it again a little bit further along. So yeah, I kind of feel like I need to just change topics now, right? Like I'm feeling pretty emotionally exhausted. And something just popped into my head. So Slice Lime uploaded a video making a stem farm for this stuff, and it kind of occurred to me, I don't think I've really seen that before, right? I don't think I've seen that sort of farm before. I haven't watched his video because now I want to challenge myself to mess around with that concept and see if I can come up with a design and then compare it to his after or something like that. But now this is where Pearl wanted to build a road. She said the sea lanterns were so maybe I should because I was just thinking, where's the last bit of road? How do we bring it over to here? Maybe I'll leave this section a little open for her to interpret, and then continue what we're doing here a little further along. Sliced Lime visited the server. He did, yes. And so did King B-Dogs as well. If you all want to see that, it's in Doc's episode. So, yeah, so like, I'm guessing you can possibly push these out of the way and then just grow another one in the same spot. Okay, you better give me a mushroom. That's another thing. Where'd you get all the mushrooms from? Oh, dang it. I was probably supposed to use a tool or something. Whatever. Whatever. I was going to do like a minor experiment with some bone meal, but whatever. So I think, yeah, if you look at where the sea lanterns go, I think it's pretty clear Pearl's got some plans for this path. I'm going to remove some of these other connections just because it's playing out a little bit different. The thing with the roads is they kind of need to service what's in the area. So like having a big grid when you don't have a lot of stuff to put in it doesn't make the most sense. So around here, it's really, I don't think there's any need for this. This is just going to be our paths now. The way this area's kind of figured itself out with the builds, right? So let's get rid of this one too. So that stuff down there is probably still a little bit necessary. Stardust 7K says, how do you find so many diamonds? The diamond pillars thing was insane. Well, we just, you know what you want to do? You want to go onto my YouTube channel and search how to find diamonds, because I've got a great tutorial on the best place in the world to get the diamonds. The trick is, once you know where to mine, you stick to mining at that level and just grind it out for a few hours, right? Oh, hello. Hang on a second. Where's my, where did I leave my ender chest? Do you guys know where I left my ender chest? Oh, dang it, hang on. Oh, this is rude. I'm walking away from them. How very rude of me. I just need this thing right here. Stay where you are. I'm on my way back. Can you hear me? No. Hi. How's it going? Is it hot? Is it cozy? These are some of the questions that I have. Calm down, fellas. Jeez. Give me a moment here. It'll all be solved in a second. It'll all be solved in a second. Let me just chew on my bone meal for a moment here. Right. You, sir. Feeling toasty? You are now. And what about your friends, eh? I can hear them. Oh, look at me. I'm getting all the wrong blocks. Oi! What do you think you're doing? See you later, mate. See ya. You know, you only really need the flint and steel for the leader, right? The rest of them... Oh, I was about to axe you, but, you know... Wait, did we get the leader? Yeah, we got them all. We got them all. I heard another little groan, but I think it was the last one dying. Okily dokily, then. Bloodtail7, thank you so much for the Prime. Damion666 subscribing, and Nate Vortex Miner, thank you for the Prime. As always, peeps, thanks for tuning in. 1,500 we are approaching. Be sure to hit the follow button. It's always a pleasure to hang out and stream for all of you. So thank you ever so much for coming by. Hey, look, we even got the banner. That's terrific. And then I just remembered that Corrales has that insane farm where we'll never need banners ever again. So, maybe not the biggest of deals, right? How long have we been streaming? 44 minutes. My bum is numb. My bum is numb. It rhymes. I need to stand, basically. So after that bit over there, it continues over here. Let's see now. So we're in line with it. And it gets a bit steep on that side. So I think what we'll do is perhaps double up just here. And then we'll go wide like this. Then we've got to clear an extra block here. So that's kind of in line with what's going on over there-ish. 4 like that. Uh-huh. Now it all sort of lines up. And it lines up with what Pearl wants to do too. Needs more glazed magenta terracotta. Oh, no, no, no. Those were just there to tell us where to go, right? So after this little section here, it's going to drop down again. Wait, what's that? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Blackjack says the magenta glazed terracotta is one of the most beautiful blocks in the game. It's a functional block. I like it. Like, it was a smart idea to give the texture like an interesting function of having an arrow. So that's a block this game needs. So all the sarcasm aside, I do think it's a decent block. Right, we're going to need to go grab some more of this, I guess. Good thing I dropped everything off over here. Just makes it easier for working on these projects. Let's switch to standing mode as well. Whew. What am I going to do with the glazed terracotta I've collected? I could just recycle it back into the King's Quest, you know, pop them all off down there. And then if Ren needs to put out some more roads, he's got them. Scar is going to come for you for that comment, X. Well, Scar's a builder, so he's looking at it from a builder's perspective, I imagine. And therefore you think, oh, what on earth? Like, this texture's like a bit brash, a bit bold. Doesn't really fit into the builds, but it's a functional one. Mushrooms come from the colourful blocks, not the stems. This is Devin Crates. I'm going to test that before I believe that. Anyhoozle, we continue with the building. Which is relatively simple. Three like that, and then all of that. 2, 3, 4, and then it comes down to this level. Got to fill in those holes, right? Not that one, though. Bold and brash, more like belongs in the trash. Dang it, I will defend that block, okay? It's got an arrow on it. Maybe it should have been reserved for a more neutral colour. Maybe that's the one criticism you can give it, right? If it's going to have an arrow on it, it needed to have been more palatable. That's a fair criticism, I think. But it just so happens it wasn't. We got a message in chat from Liger. Wiki, mushroom blocks are most quickly broken with an axe, dropping 0 to 2 mushroom items of the respective type. In Java Edition, only cap blocks drop mushroom items, while in Bedrock, both stem blocks and mushrooms as well. Fortune does not affect the drop rate of mushrooms in any form. Interesting. Now, one thing I will say is that the wiki can be unreliable. You know, you should always perhaps double check some of the stuff unless you already know happens to work. The one thing that I thought was actually a little bit questionable there was the fortune, because I remember there was an update of Minecraft around the Nether update where they revised what worked with fortune, and I think it was for things like the axe and the hoe, and they switched it around a bit so that an axe would work with nether warts with fortune, and I think some other stuff got roped into that as well, which off the top of my head, I'm sure Fortune would have worked with it, but you know. There was a time when this game was simpler and you could remember all the things there was to know about it. That time is long gone. Okay, there's just so much, it's like, oh god, I can't keep up. Even though I try to keep up. and try to inform all of you as well with my videos. It's an impossible job. Does this count as building a road? All I've done is lay down the foundation so far. There's my bed. Black and white goes with everything. Always wondered why they didn't use one of those, says Alina Undercover. Yeah, I guess it's just the way it ended up being, right? We got Bandilunu here for 2 months, saying it's a good block, a bit weird and funky, but it's quite neat. Yeah, that's how I feel. And it has its function. So these big walls that we're making here, we have the opportunity to come back in the future and basically sort of turn them... Oh, am I running out? No, like turn them into like interesting walls and stuff. You know, the architecture side of things gets to come a little later on. But now we're just putting in the foundations where the road is going to go. And do a little more chopper. Becca11 says the magenta terracotta is useful for mining, especially in the new huge caves. Yeah, you could leave down markers of where to go. You know, there's that old trick people talk about. I've always put like torches on the right hand side of the cave. I've never found that to work because you can circle back around on yourself and like the orientation changes, but maybe I'm doing it wrong, you know. X, have you been following the recent controversies of Andrew Tate? I have not. I don't know who Andrew Tate is. Feel free to enlighten me. I'm starting... Oh, there's someone else asking the same question in chat. I'm starting to develop this opinion lately that it feels like a lot of political stuff is like... It's almost like the things that we care about in political left and right are almost sort of meaningless on a day-to-day basis, and people have so much more in common with like how they treat one another and our decency towards each other, and then we go and throw in these like hot topics which generally like aren't an everyday thing that people have to deal with, and then they somehow just become these incredibly divisive, dividing things that we form our identity around. So like, take something like abortion, for example. Like, if you're creating a political identity around abortion, how often do you actually encounter it in your life? Like, most people will encounter it a handful of times, maybe at most. There might actually be some really good information about that out there. Maybe, you know, defer before speculating, defer to some research. But like, there's these other things, like how we're polite to people and how we help each other in times of crisis and all these sorts of things that just make up so much more of our lives, and yet they're not things we seem to hold as big values. Goblin Game Dev says, Andrew Tate is a raging misogynist and encouraging young men to follow his lead. Now, you know, I don't know if that's an accurate assessment of that, because that's an opinion basically, not a statement about a series of events or whatever. It absolutely is, says I want to believe. The it being the one thing I talked about, or the other thing that we're talking about. Yeah, like I know next to nothing about like what we're talking about now. But I also know when you know next to nothing about something, probably not the best idea just to take like the next thing that you hear someone say about it. Oh, you know, like here's this thing. Oh, that person sucks, or you don't want to know about that. Like, you need to go in and do your own learning, right, and think about things for yourself. So, like, that is a opinion about someone and describing them, as opposed to explaining some events or whatnot. Now, can you see here how we're going to, like, basically run into the side of Hypno's? Maybe we should, this is where we should just do a U-turn towards this path, right? So the middle of this, I'd say we can probably widen it up. Let's make it here. So I'm going to put this as a marker. Right, so we'll have a path going somewhere around here now. And what this needs to do is extend to there. And then this will be the corner of the path, and we can create another little connection for Hypno, essentially. One, two, three, four. It's 1, 2, 3 like that, isn't it? So that will be the corner, I believe. Andrew Tate has been banned for social media for his views. Interesting. I'm not a fan of people being banned for views, but I do understand that, like, I'm not... I think I've said in the past that I am a free speech absolutist. I don't know. I feel like as soon as you start using some terms, you see the flaws in the terms. I think that, you know, I think someone said it to me once, like, freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequence. And if you have views and stuff that are going to lead to other people causing harm or whatnot, then it is something of a problem. But my gut instinct is kind of like the freedom to talk and express ideas online, and then the freedom to combat those ideas with better ideas. And when I look at history, I have faith in humanity, because it seems like we started in terrible conditions, and slowly over time with a lot of suffering, not trying to undermine the fact that horrible things have happened in our past, but it seems like we're moving in the right direction, just slowly with lots of bumps over time. And I think that something that helps with that is the ability for people to express their ideas and share them. And if we take that away, I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Because the times that people have taken away are, you know, people's ability to express themselves are some of the worst times in human history. He is an abuser. There is a video of him beating his girlfriend. So, you know, so far in chat, like, no one stood up for this guy. And if that's true, then, you know, I can't stand by anyone being violent to someone else like that. So, whoever this guy is, it sounds like perhaps removing him was a fair course of action. But I am, as I said, totally uninformed. I haven't been watching the news and stuff lately at all, really, which has been good for my mental health. Totally out of the know on this stuff. So I think just around this point here, the gradient probably needs to change. Okay, so there we go. And then this bit probably go down 2 blocks at a time. Maybe it needs to be a bit steeper, a bit further back. What we can do is calculate that to some extent. Yeah, it looks to me like we need to pull it back probably about 6 blocks. Okay, the Thinky, thank you. It sounds like this person is involved in some terrible, terrible stuff, so I'll take y'all's word for it. Okay, what we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say we start declining around here. We'll use this side more as the metric this time. I think some sort of staircase might be easier to make pretty. Yeah, it'll end up being the equivalent of a staircase, right? That's why I'm putting the gradient together. Oops, that's wrong. Okay, so now we got like a nice slick path down to this level. Cool. Martin says, I don't like watching the news because all they talk about is bad things. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a time and a place for it. Like, if you're someone... I feel like if you're someone who's passionate about these things and wants to go out in the world and make a difference, then power to you. Like, engage with those things because they need to be engaged with. But for a lot of us, it feels like this idea of needing to be informed, it's just like doom and gloom. Like, the news just focuses on doom and gloom, and we can be informed about positive things too, and it feels very obscure that we put such a priority on how terrible these things and those things are, because it creates a bit of a warped view of the world, I think, where we like hyper focus on negatives and overlook like some of the many positives that we can think about day to day. And that's why I like tuning out the news, because then what's important to me becomes like my immediate environment where things are okay. Let's say they weren't okay in my immediate environment, then I think that would be a good thing, because you wouldn't have the added stress of everything else in the world as well, right? Like, and you would be incentivized to get involved in what's going on in your immediate community and neighborhood. And perhaps with like the additional weight of the world's problems on your shoulders, you might be a bit more apathetic towards doing such a thing that you actually have more direct influence and control over. So the news tends to just be like, feed you stuff you have no control over, constant doom and gloom. Sometimes it's not even relevant to you. I mean, and it's relevant to someone, right? And I'm not trying to diminish anyone else's suffering, but for the sake of your own mental health and your perspective on things, it just feels like it's such a bad recipe. And yeah, for that reason, I really have just tuned out more and more over the last few months, and felt better as a consequence of that. Right, we've got a chest here that I can drop off some bits and bobs in, right? Lots of messages in chat. Ganda says, I'm going to take my driving test later this week. Any advice? Yeah, here's my advice for taking a driving test. Right, you know, everyone's like, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. Here's the thing, don't put all your hopes into passing, right? Don't put pressure on yourself for that outcome. Go in there knowing that you're a learner. You're going to make mistakes. Everyone will make mistakes. This is an opportunity for you to go through the testing procedure and learn from it, right? I failed my test, I believe, 2 times or 3 times, and then I got it after that. And once I passed, I kind of looked back and realized, you know, maybe I wasn't ready to take the test, but they were learning experiences. So rather than put pressure on yourself to pass, go into it like it's a learning experience, right? Yes, you're going to have the added pressure of someone watching you while you drive. That's going to be different. You know what? Once you've passed, you'll have people in your car with you. You know, maybe you're driving a friend somewhere or whatever, and like that's going to be like a bit of a pressure too. You're like, oh dang, I'm new to this driving, and now I'm driving someone else around. Like, what are they going to think of my driving? So like, you know, don't be too hard on yourself. Just think of it as like a learning experience, and be okay with not passing if that's the outcome. And obviously, I'm not trying to say don't try or anything like that. Like, it's just about realizing that you will put extra pressure on yourself anyway. And so if you let go of that pressure and just think, hey, this is a learning experience, I don't have to pass today, you know, you'll probably just, you know, drive better. And driving better might not be enough to pass, but it's better to do that than to, you know, put more pressure on yourself, right? You learn to pass your tests, and only once you've done that, you learn how to drive, says Noel Potato. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. For me, I remember I was buying my house, and the person who was selling it to me was asking me about driving and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, the real learning begins when you've passed your test. And I was like, it does? I was like, oh, that's interesting. I know exactly what they mean now. Like, once you pass, it's like a whole other learning to drive experience again. So yeah, just don't lump the pressure on yourself. There's no need for that. Right, let's go ahead and start to piece together this road a little bit more. Vegan Stream Pie says, I got like 4 to 5 engine stops on my test, but I passed because I remained calm and had control over the situation. Yeah, I made loads of mistakes in my first couple of tests, and probably initially like reacted to them not very well, you know. But it's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes, so just don't put the pressure on yourself. Right, we got more noises in the ear. We got Just Thesis here for 2 months. Thanks for being a source of comfort. Your streams always help me de-stress and chill out for once. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Lizzie Bess, 49 months. Always so chill and awesome. Have my Prime sub. Thank you so much, Lizzie. And Patrice Bart is here for 20. Appreciate you, Patrice. Appreciate you. I think the block that I went to look at was Deep Slate, right? I need some of that. Also, I don't need to hold on to some of these things, really, so let's give ourselves a little leniency in the inventory. For the things that go down the side of the path, we need a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of those, then the granite, and then you need your different deep slates. We got that stuff, then we got the cobbled. I think that's it, really. So we'll line it up like that. Hey, we got Greg Fonutu here with the Prime. Thanks so much for subscribing with the Prime. And peeps, don't go anywhere. What's he doing? What's he doing? Don't go anywhere at all, peeps. I'm just going to nip to the loo and I'll be right back. T and Tree in chat says the text at the top is so forceful, like, I will be right back. Oh god, X. Violence. Violent language. You're oppressing me with your tone. Right, oh, isn't there like stairs and stuff that go in the middle? We'll do that last. Good pee, says the Thinky. Yeah, it's always good to relieve the pressure from the bladder, isn't it? I'll give that was a solid 6, that one. You know, wasn't too full, but, you know, it was good. Apparently that's worth clipping. Well, okay, it'll get clipped then. I need to read some more of these questions that the chat has highlighted for me. Kalalian TV says, but freedom of speech, isn't that just the government cannot limit what you are allowed to say? On the private market, like social media, you always have to follow the rules of their place. Yeah, but that's a thing that's of debate, right? Like, should they? be able to enforce that. Some people will argue that places like Twitter are now more like public forums, or places where those things should perhaps be treated differently. There are lots of laws and rules and whatnot that were written before we had social media. So the question is, should we perhaps change our stance on some of this stuff, right? I think constant evaluation of changes and responding to them is smart in any society, right? Esther says, I think there is a problem with news companies making money off bad topics, dragging out and exaggerating topics. Exactly. They have bad incentives. They have poor incentives. Clickbait. You know, they're trying to get clicks and people reading their articles, and those are basically poor incentives, right? They're not great. We're going to need to go fish out some more of this stuff, aren't we? Alright, I think I'll leave it there because I know Pearl's got some stuff to do in that spot. And then just to remind myself of how we're rolling, we'll put a little something over here. Cool, then we'll go do the same thing over here. Yagzikan26, thank you for 4 months of support. Have a good stream, bro. I took your advice and started gym and healthier lifestyle. Now feel better overall. That is great to hear, my dude. All the best keeping it up, and I love to hear that because, you know, I'm all about my gym and healthy lifestyle. You know, the exercise that you do with your time, it affects your mood, it affects all sorts of things, right? And it's good to be on top of that stuff. Benderbots, thank you ever so much for 4 months of support. Greatly appreciated, my dude. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Cool, and then we'll put in some rotational ones, and then I think we need to sleep in a bed. Betty buys. Commissar Bass, thank you so much for your Prime subscription. Greatly appreciated. And Amacia says it's difficult to balance what news you intake because so much is important to keep up on, but there's also lots of chaff. I would, you know, like I said earlier, are things relevant to you? And I feel like a lot of topics out there entice you to make it feel like you need to have an opinion. You need to have an opinion on this political thing, that political thing. If you tune it out for a while as an experiment, right, let's say you're like, I'm going to, for the next month, I'm not going to pay attention to any news, right? Unless, obviously, when we talk about something being relevant to you, I mean, like, if there's stuff going on in your immediate environment that you know affects you, then yeah, you've got a reason to tune in, right? But that noise of, you know, mainstream media or whatever the thing everyone's talking about is, if you take a month off from it, see what happens and let that guide you. Because everyone's different. Maybe you're the sort of person who just needs to know about this stuff. But my experience is that I realize the things that are more important in life aren't these big political discussions of the day most of the time, right? And that might not be the same for everyone, but I think it's worth investigating because I think everyone's aware that we've got a problem going on and it's affecting people's mental health and it's causing all sorts of chaos. And, you know, the one thing we can change is ourselves. We can work on ourselves. And maybe if we did that, we'd find out, oh, this ain't for me. I'm not a part of this. He says, she says, what's the latest thing? Doesn't work for me. Because like I said, it's enticing you to make you feel like you need to have an opinion on this stuff. Like I said earlier with the abortion thing, it's something that most people don't actually encounter very often in their lives. And the same with a lot of other political talking points. They don't really make up a lot of your day. It's like always something somewhere else that you need to be worried about. Just Stress 1066, thank you for the subscription. Appreciate it, my dude. Appreciate it. Road Steeding says, I've recently withdrawn from my extremely online news reaction communities, and I was shocked to find out I wasn't really less informed without constantly being told what folks were saying on Twitter. Absolutely, great point. And on that note, like, informing yourself, I think what informing yourself is like, for me, it's edutainment, right? Like learning about topics, all sorts, science, engineering, philosophical, historical, all of these things. But it's not about the hot take right now. It's all about learning and like what's happened in the past and how does this thing work, and that stuff feels way more informative of what's going on in the world than the actual thing people are talking about half the time. Also, I kind of feel like my remarks on abortion maybe downplay the significance of like how laws affect large populations of people. You know, maybe it is something, that one in particular maybe is much more of a talking point and something to care about than to just brush off. But certainly when it comes to other things, it's like there's a lot of stuff that goes around that just seems like this isn't something you really encounter a lot. Burrito Supreme says, when it comes to abortion, it's more prevalent than you think. As a woman, I know many other women that have had abortions for various reasons. It's just taboo to talk about. Yeah, you know, I'm talking from a man's perspective, so yeah, and also, as I literally just said a moment ago, you know, my brain catches up with myself and thinking this is a big deal. You know, you have to think about how certain things affect populations and whatnot. How do you feel about abortion, says Tanav. So my take on it is like, it's sort of like I see both sides of the argument. Like, people should have bodily autonomy and options available to have control over their life, and I do see how what we're talking about is also an ethical question. It is a moral question. So it is both of these things, and it's sort of disappointing to see how it doesn't involve people coming together and talking and communicating to figure out where the middle grounds are. And it just ends up being extraordinarily divisive. Right, let's now grab these materials and extend the edges. I feel like, you know, Freewide, it is a bit... This is like a main artery road, actually. Let's just keep it the way it is. Granite's easy to get hold of. Don't have to worry about conserving materials or anything like that. I think our online fast data society has skewed opinions to either black or white, while in reality the topic should be much more nuanced than what can be expressed in 300 characters. Absolutely. Totally on board with that. Totally on board with that. Another reason why I don't really like news that revolves around what someone on Twitter said. Because my experience is, listen to people talk about something they know about for hours on end on a podcast. You become informed, you realise how complex and how many different takes there can be on this thing that's being discussed. You go to Twitter and it's like everything gets channeled into this kind of like, and here's the answer, here's why I'm right, kind of, and it's like, that's not really that helpful. The middle is... I don't know what the middle's going to be here. So obviously we've got those stair blocks, but we need to go cut some of this cobble into slabs for these bits in between. What are your thoughts on the supposed zombie video in China? Haven't seen it, but, you know, zombies in my mind are essentially like ghosts, and, you know... I don't think they actually exist. The reason people have opinions on abortion, even if they're not personally impacted, is that it's a moral issue. Those against it think it's morally and ethically wrong to let it happen. Yeah. One of the things I don't like in discussion around these sorts of topics is when, like, character assassination and... I mean, maybe on occasion that's relevant, right? But when people try to dismiss others as if, oh, you don't have an opinion because you're not involved in this, or something along those lines, I don't think that's a great way to go about talking about these things. I think everyone should be welcome to have an opinion, and if they want to, you know, and to treat each other with respect, to try and learn from one another, to try and understand someone else's opinion, as opposed to just deplore your own upon them. Right, we got Thido, Prime, Friday with the Prime, Just Stress 1066 subscribing, G-Stab for 78 months. Whoa, crazy months, crazy months. Still can't believe the prank you did on Mumbo yesterday. It was so funny. It was a great prank. I mean, he's not even playing on the server and he's getting pranked. What is this about? Caxio Music's here with a donation saying, do you still listen to Aurora? I've read your music blog and was wondering what you think about her latest singles. Well, she put out an album earlier this year, so I don't know what her latest singles are in contrast to that. I did like the new record, but I haven't gone back to it and listened to it too many times, but it's, you know, I still love her voice and her music. What was the prank, says Gander? Well, you'll have to go watch the episode to find out, wouldn't you? Lazy. God, just think I'm going to tell you what it is. As if I just sit here answering people's questions. God. God, you lot, eh? It's incredible that Mumbo's slime farm ended up revolutionizing slime farms, says Road Steering. I think Doc did the revolutionizing there. You know, building some of the LA trees was supposed to be a part of this stream, but apparently this is what I'm doing now. I'm just road building. And I was only supposed to build a small section, but then it was like, hey, there's this whole big thing that needs doing, let's get on top of it. I don't think I'm actually going to build all of it properly either. I think I'm going to build like a little bit more of this section and then head over to the other bit, just because I think Pearl might want to change up some stuff about how it connects, so we won't build a crazy amount of it, but we've kind of laid down the idea. I'm a builder of roads, apparently. 15 Fine is here for 11 months saying, have you been watching anything decent lately? Let me come back to that in a minute. Caxio, thank you ever so much for the donation again. Appreciate it. Have I been watching anything decent lately? Well, I finished watching Better Call Saul. I haven't picked up another TV show. I've been watching Ken Burns' documentary on the history of the Civil War, which is absolutely fascinating. And then I'm going to watch his one on World War II after. I've been considering listening to The Rise and the Fall of the Third Reich. Like, I've watched, or like air quotes, studied or listened to audio, but so much stuff about World War II. And I keep hearing people talk about that book as if it's like one of the definitive ones on World War II, so I might give that a try. And then I've been listening to a few podcasts here and there, but I've been last like week or so I've been really productive, and so I haven't spent much time like indulging in entertainment or whatever. And I've also been playing my chess puzzles, really getting into those. In fact, right, I had my score up to like 15,000, and then it tanked down to like 13,000, and I was thinking I was gonna do a stream and show everyone how good I was with the puzzles, and then I was like, right, I really need to like focus more, and I started to like really try and focus, do my absolute best, take my time, and now I've got my score approaching 16,000 on the old chess puzzles, and I feel like, I don't know, something clicked. I'm starting just to see a little bit more than I was before with these puzzles. Maybe I'm just getting used to some of the challenges it throws my way, but I'm pretty stoked to do a stream soon where we can just like really get in and have a good go at that for a couple of hours. I think he says, I hate listening to the news, it's too depressing. Anyway, I might go read a whole book about World War II. Right, listening to an historical book about the facts and events of the past is like deeply informative and it is interesting, and the nature of the news today, it's not comparable. The news today is, oh god, someone's mad about something on Twitter again, right? It's all this just clickbait, hot take noise, you know, and learning about actual events by listening to historians, that's really different from what someone just got angry about on Twitter, right? That would be my point there. They are just not really that comparable experiences. The news isn't a long, detailed discussion about some events that have transpired from a non-political perspective. That's not what they are. Whereas reading, you know, depends on the historian, but, you know. Some of it is the start of World War III, though, says Shadow Howler. You know, until something happens, then, you know, then it, only then is it, because when you, I don't know how old you are, but when you're young and you hear people like express how like the world's on the brink of collapse, and you know, everything's about to fall apart and World War III's around the corner and all of this, it's easy to hear. But then when you've heard it again and again and again and again for decades, right? You know, I've got a couple of decades to my name now of like paying attention to this stuff. I remember in 2012, 10 years ago, the world was going to end, right? It was a sure thing. The world was totally going to end. Right, that came and went, and that was one of those moments where I went, why did I think it was going to end again? Like, what's going on here? How did I fall for this? Started to think about things a little differently after that. Are you thinking about streaming Nomori Cube Hamsters game? I was, and then some events transpired that meant that I wasn't able to stream it. Then they've now released the game, and I will be streaming it in a couple of weeks. And probably doing something with Cube Hamster after as well. I was more than happy to play his game and check it out and share it with all of you, and that was supposed to have happened already, but unfortunately, you know, things have been happening, and I've had to delay my plans. But we will get around to it. Yes, we will. Okay, Paramosia says the news in the past is very similar too. It's just different when you're learning about events that have happened versus what's currently happened. Yes, yeah. And here's the thing. There have been people in the past who have talked about the sad state of the news and how you should tune out from it and how life is better that way. I recently learned that there was some person who had a voice and the ability to talk about stuff and reach people, and they said this. They said, like, the news is terrible, I'm going to take a break from it. And like, this was over 120 years ago. They were talking about the news in the same way that we talk about it now. This is one of those things, like, people often say like the world is getting worse. I don't think that it is. I think the same ideas just keep spinning around. We keep looking backwards with rosy tinted eyes and doom and gloom for what's in front of us a lot of the time. Yeah, we keep going forward, we keep getting through it. And it's a wobbly road, and it affects different people at different times in different ways, but we keep marching forward. It's one big mess. It's one big mess that's just always messy. But slowly it gets better over time. The world isn't getting worse, we just have more access to information regarding these doomsday events, says Druzen. We also have more access to information about, you know, all the miraculous things happening with, like, science and medicine and the progress of humanity, the reduction of suffering and poverty that's been taking place over the last couple hundred years. It's just a matter of perspectives. It's been so much good progress. And it will always take place alongside suffering. And the natural ups and downs and bumps in the roads. And you can be totally focused on all the bad stuff or all the good stuff. It's a mixture of both, but you know, we're making progress. With the past, we can look and say it worked out in the end, while when we are looking forward at what's happening, we think the world is going to end. Yeah, that's a really good point. So like, let's say you're of the perspective that, you know, the next few years are going to be terrible and it's all going to fall apart. If you actually look at, let's say, like, at the situation as a whole and factor in lots of different things, and then compare it to like the beginning of World War II or something, that one looks so much worse. Right, that situation probably looks way worse. The thing is, like, you know, those things come to end, essentially. Like, of all the wars that have ever been fought, and all the suffering that people have had to endure, when you zoom out from the individual and you look at the collective, like, humanity just keeps going, right? And then it means that more people further down the line live with more prosperity. It's a really weird thing. I'm not trying to minimize suffering or say, oh, it's good that we have wars or anything like that. It's just like, that's kind of how it works. It'd be great if it worked without all of that suffering and stuff, but it's a part of the equation. But you know, there's way more suffering when you go further back in time. You go back to like caveman times. Like, I think when you learn more about history, and then you can appreciate how many luxuries and conveniences that we have, you go back and you look at like what cavemen had to deal with in terms of suffering, and you just kind of realize, whoa, we're living in like an incredible time. Technology has done so much for our comfort. Like, no one here goes out and forages food, right? No one here didn't find any food today and had to sit in the cave, in the cold cave, right? Dealing with, like, I don't know, some infection that you've got, and that broken arm that you got fighting that wild animal, or fell out of a tree and it would never heal again. Because that's how some life was for a long, long time. It was brutal. We had no way to combat the harshness of nature. We were at its mercy. And yet now we have abundance of food, heating, you know, lack of diseases, and oh god, we're pampered, we're pampered. Exactly, that's it, we're pampered. I mean, last night I sat in my sauna again. It's ridiculous how good we've got it sometimes. I know not everyone's got a sauna. I'm not trying to flex. I'm just saying, like, the fact that you can sit in a house, it's warm, you're sheltered from the environment outside, there's food in the fridge. You know, you don't have to deal with waste. Toilets are amazing. The infrastructure for getting rid of our waste is incredible. Water comes through the tap. You don't have to worry about it. Like, all of this stuff is really incredible. Undock Chigenwegastorter is here for 2 months. Thank you so much. And Frowning Fawn is here with the Prime. ZPR Frosty with the Prime. 15 fine. Oh, we read that one already. Thank you so much again, though. So, like, someone in chat says, oh, we'll be foraging for food soon with the cost of living crisis. Yeah, again, not trying to play down the cost of living crisis. These are issues we have to solve. And a lot of what I say is for, like, it's not to go, oh, everything's alright and fine and dandy, but it's to hold it in perspective. I worry about how much all of this stuff affects our mental health. It's like, do you want to go back 200 years, or do you want to live today with the current crisis? Everyone will pick today with the crisis. The crisis of today is 100 years ago an absolute luxury. The things we have access to today are just beyond the wildest dreams of the richest, most fortunate people from hundreds of years ago. It's incredible. Again, not a diminishment of issues at hand, but I just think it's great to hold this stuff in perspective, because so many of these ways of looking at the world just lead to your own personal suffering when you're talking about things that are beyond your control. And if you feel like, hang on a minute, this is in my control, I want to go out there and protest and try and get things to change, then power to you. Like, there is a crisis, there is a problem, but again, I feel like perspective is a very useful thing. Just to know, hey, we're dealing with a problem in some pretty good times. Gregonoot says that's a pretty terrible reduction of the current crisis. I'm not trying to reduce it, I'm trying to give you the perspective, because some of this stuff just becomes so doom and gloom and like, oh, it's the end of the world, and like people like who you suffer about it mentally if you think of it that way. And I've learnt so much over the last 10 plus years about all the great things that go on in the world, and just sort of come to realise we're sort of living in the best of times. Even our crises are just incredible. Incredible to have a crisis like this compared to what it was like to live hundreds of years ago. And again, not a dismissal, just a perspective that can, you know, enlighten how you feel and think about this stuff. Should definitely still, you know, make strides to fix these problems and not just accept them, but like, how much do you want to suffer when you got food in the fridge and shelter and all these things? It's terribly reductive to say X's stance is terribly reductive, hilariously, says Road Steeding. Yeah, I feel like it sort of sucked out some of the nuance of the point that I was making. Because I am not saying bury your head in the sand, everything's fine. I'm just saying give yourself some perspective, because you can acknowledge there's a problem and you can do something about it. But like, how much do you want to suffer for that when you compare it to how much you would suffer living hundreds of years ago? I don't think people understand just how brutal life was hundreds of years ago. You know, I was like watching a documentary about the American Civil War, and some of the suffering these people went through is just like barbaric compared to today. And it's not just like, okay, you go in a war, you get injured and stuff. It's like people lost arms, they lost legs, they lost eyes, shrapnel, like ruined these men's bodies. And that can still happen today, but there is less fighting and suffering in the world, and that's something that goes up and down. Obviously, current events in Europe, we're on a bump, not a great thing. But then the modern medicine and understanding of how to deal with these things has reduced the suffering of those people who encounter such violence and injury and whatnot. It's always good to acknowledge how far we've come, says Blushing Blue Slime. Exactly, yeah. Said in very few words there. That's kind of how I feel. And yeah, those people in the American Civil War, dang, did they suffer. And listening to the documentary and like the music of it is fascinating, because there's all it's got the instruments that have the tang and the feel of the time, right? And a lot of these melodies and tunes I know from like football terraces, funny enough. And on football terraces, they take, you know, famous, well-known tunes and then add their own lyrics for their club to it. And I'm hearing all these melodies over and over again from the American Civil War that have just, you know, survived through time and become things like chants on the terraces now. It's weird. And it makes me think, oh, like, What is the origin of this song, actually? I'm wondering, is this actually something from the American Civil War, or are they just taking American songs or well-known songs and giving them that, like, tang, so it's like a soundtrack to what you're learning about? I don't actually know which one it is. Grindel says, the nuclear bomb also made the world think very hard before going to war. Yeah, so I used to be like, I used to have this thing in my head of like, nuclear weapons are so mad, and God, what's wrong with humanity? Like, why do we have nukes? Get rid of them all. And now I have more of a perspective like, this is like a consequence of technology, and technology always advances. Right? And so, yes, ideally, no nukes, feels like the world would be better. But that's not the reality, and we can't get rid of them. So what are these things doing? Well, they are preventing war. They are... Mutually assured destruction has its, air quotes, benefits, or whatever. And recently, maybe you could argue we're starting to see that that might not be so true. Usually, you understand those things once they're in the past better than when you're in the present. People underestimated the sheer magnitude of casualties in war back then. I don't know how you underestimate or estimate something. Like, everyone's got, like, a perspective on something. Like, if I say American Civil War, you have some kind of, like, feelings and images in your head. And then when it comes to numbers, like, there were battles in the American Civil War where, like, 10, 20,000 people died. Like, your brain doesn't know how to deal with such big numbers. It's like, I don't know how I can compare that to World War II. I know that World War II was like the biggest casualty and loss of life for a prolonged conflict. But I don't know, like, proportionally what those mean. Like, on what days did 10 or 20,000 people die in a single battle in World War II? I don't know. It's crazy, though. It's just crazy how many people can die in one moment. Because we go to war, it's just, oh man. Everyone's against it. Like, it's like most of the world is just totally against it, yet it still happens. Ken Burns, you said, right? Says Toby Robot. Toby, great to see you in chat, my dude. Ken Burns is the historian. I've got 2 of his documentaries. They're free to watch on archive.org. And I've been blown away by the Civil War one so far. I've got like 3 episodes left to watch, I think. Lots of childish people in power, says Zerg. I think that's an oversimplification. It's like all leaders just have this kind of like... They're just so easy to knock down, right? I don't really kind of know the ins and outs of how power operates at that level. Because it's easier to focus and see war and conflict, and when those things are absent, like the days go by and things are going okay, you're not really taking account of it in the same way. Always nice to catch your stream, says Toby. Glad to hear it, my dude. Thank you for sticking around all these years. I was shared a clip of, you might have been in it actually, but hanging out with Fenno and James to Jim back in the day and being a troll. Someone shared me a little clip of it on Twitter and I was like, those were the days, eh? Izet Firezet is here with 30 months of support. I haven't watched this season much because of life stuff, but it's almost been 3 years. Dang. Thank you so much for sticking around, and no worries at all about not catching much of this season. I mean, we do so much on Hermitcraft, right? You can't watch it all. Right, so at this point, you can see that the gradient changes now. X, imagine a place where AI battles over AI nations, nobody suffers emotionally, no casualties. Imagine that. It will be like playing a game of chess over a nation. That would be sick, but still, no casualties, says me, B Quack. Now, the idea of AI robots fighting each other, what is this? Automated warfare? Like, that to me is extremely scary, the idea that technology and warfare become automated, because looking back over history, destructive abilities get more and more powerful with time, right? Interestingly, as I mentioned earlier, it also scales with a reduction of human suffering, strangely. I mean, those parallels and, God, however that works, that's bizarre, but we can treat casualties better, and since World War II, at least, you know, the amount of violence and conflict in the world has scaled down. That, you know, that, who's to say that's a certainty? But yeah, when it comes to automated warfare, this could be really dangerous. But if it ends up being automated things fighting automated things, you could look at that like, okay, it's great that we're not killing people. You could look at it like, what a waste of resources and material. But ultimately, I feel like there would just always be an incentive to leverage human suffering, which sounds terrible, but think of it like this. If the war is just happening and robots are killing robots, everyone's going to be like, alright, fine, let them destroy each other over there. I mean, some of us will be concerned about the environment and things like that. So then, like, what is this war about? I think wars are always going to drag people into them, and there are going to be casualties of war and whatnot. So, I mean, it almost sounds like it could be a good thing, but I can't help but feel it would be a real bad thing. I don't think AI and automated warfare would just eliminate humans from the equation, because we would probably happily let robots and stuff die if we don't have to. And then there's, you know, what's the fight? What's the conflict about then? Who knows? You know, can't see the future, right? I don't have any ice in these boxes, so I can't make some little modifications over here right now. One thing that I found very interesting as of late is learning about cyber warfare. Cyber warfare, to me, feels like one of the biggest risks to, I don't know, the current equilibrium, if you like. It's kind of well known. I think most people sort of know, if you're a little bit into computers and tech and security and stuff, that there's a lot of like systems everywhere that just run on old, outdated stuff. Like, everyone probably knows, oh, our local school is still running on Windows XP or whatever, right? Like, security practices are really behind the cutting edge of how stuff works online. And so there is a lot of vulnerability for a lot of infrastructure around the world, and there is every day a lot of cyber warfare going on between nations. And it's also a conflict where no one wants to admit what they're capable of, because it's admitting guilt. So you can't bring nations together to sit at the table and set up a bunch of rules about what is or isn't allowed in cyber warfare. Currently, cyber warfare is like the unspoken thing, where a country's capabilities are their intel. They're not going to divulge what they're capable of to anyone else. And it looks like, if they wanted to, these things are capable of, you know, crippling large parts of infrastructure that run off of old and outdated computer systems. That, to me, feels like a big risk to be concerned about. I mean, that's not one of your hot topics of the day, right? The news has got you all concerned on who said this and that on Twitter, but, like, this feels like a more prominent issue in my mind that should be talked about. I'm still Windows 10 and have no plans to update to Windows 11, says Stardust. I have both Windows 10 and 11, and I'm pretty happy staying on 10 with this main system for now. I feel like 11 has this problem of, like, feeling very tacked on top of Windows 10, and all of its new features, or not all, but some of them, just feel so like put on top of it. And oh yes, things have started to change here. You know, even like right-clicking. Oh, look, you got a nice new right-click menu. Well, it hasn't got everything in it, and then there's this thing at the bottom. You click on it, and then it's like, oh, there's the old right-click. It just feels very clunky. I'm dead inside says Windows 11 is fine. I'm sure, you know, there's no crippling issues it's got, right? But it just, the experience of using it for me is always like, it's got this feeling of tacking on top of Windows 10. And there are definitely some things I like more that Windows 10 does than it does that I've experienced. Daniel7-101, 48 months! 4 years. Appreciate you, my dude. Also, Curls gifted a sub to Blackjack. I totally missed that one. Thank you so much, Curls. Appreciate you ever so much. There's the gifted subs. I'm sure Blackjack's already said thanks. And Charming Mango, thank you for your Prime subscription. Appreciate it. My computer had Windows 11 when I brought it in January, and I'm fine with it. It's since I never got used to Windows 10. There you go. You know, that's it at the end of the day. Can you get along with something? Yeah, then you're good. I can get along with Windows 11 if I had to. Because I have a choice on this system to update or not, I'm just going to stay where I am, because Windows 10 still gets updated. And on the front of security, there's some good rules of thumb that everyone should know. So if you're listening, alright, don't think it will never happen to me. The way you should think about an issue like security, and even intelligence if you want to relate it to like what we were talking about a moment ago, is it's not about you, it's about what other people are doing. And if you understand what cyber criminals do, you'll realize that you need to change what you do to protect yourself from them. They are actively looking for vulnerabilities. And the way that online security works, with you giving away your credentials and your information to websites, it means that information about you is constantly leaking out and is in the hands of nefarious people that want to leverage it against you in some way or another. Leverage your data against you. So you need to be able to respond to that. You need to be able to be in front of that. And some of the practices here that are best for being in front of it involve using a password manager, for example. If you are reusing passwords, you are creating a big vulnerability for yourself. So it is one of those things that you should absolutely look into doing. Another one is anytime any piece of software, right, asks you to update, Windows system update, you know, Apple launches a new iOS patch, you shouldn't dismiss it, okay? Now, maybe you can't patch right now because you're trying to use the thing or it's inconvenient, sure. But don't rule it out. Don't be like, I can't be bothered. Stop with these updates. A lot of the time they're fixing security vulnerabilities and you always want to be on top. And you always want to be up to date with those things. So even if it's an inconvenience, make the time to keep your stuff up to date and secure. That's another good rule. This sounds like a segue to a sponsor, says Animiles. Well, I've tried to get in touch with various people in, or companies, let's say, in this space, because I would be more than happy to advertise a password manager. I would advertise the one that I use, etc. But I haven't really been able to make inroads, so I don't have a sponsor or anything to plug. When it comes to sponsorship, I work with stuff that I believe in. Like, I use a VPN. I'm happy to work with a VPN sponsor. I understand the technology, its uses, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't have that kind of contact, so I don't have a sponsor. But yeah, like I believe in the product. I believe a password manager is just a must. You know, if you understand how security works. See, the problem is people reuse passwords. They also think no one else is using password 123456. That's one of the first things that gets used on a brute force list. So, you know, you sign up for websites with your email address. Your email address is probably leaked. You can go to a website called haveibeenpwned.com and you can find out if your website is in the hands of nefarious people or not, because these things have been leaked. So if they got access to both passwords and emails from an insecure website, they are going to cross-reference your email address with other websites that have leaked. You've got an account on this one, they know about it, they're going to reuse that password. Then they're going to try, they'll identify, okay, maybe your password was just a string of random numbers and letters. They're probably thinking, they've got a password manager, I ain't got the time. But if your password is something weak, or it was related to your name, or like the name of a pet or a dog, then they're going to start running brute force lists against your email address that's leaked from that other site. So the security issue here is, again, understanding it's not what you're doing, it's what they're doing, and you need to respond to it. So yeah, like, that's just something I believe strongly in. People should be educated on security in this digital age, understanding how these things work, what happens with your data. There's no education for it out there. Like, you don't get taught online security in school. You need to. You need to learn about it. You need to understand, like, people need to be taught, this is how the internet works, this is how things are taking place on it. Those classroom lessons just don't exist, do they? We could always destroy the internet and not have to worry. If we destroy the internet, we'll have so many other problems to worry about. Think about how much infrastructure runs off of it. There's no easy solutions to this stuff. You just have to learn and respond, essentially. Like they know you're using this mail address on an anim website and you're going to try all the anim character name in the password. I'm not sure what you mean by anim, but let's say you meant anime, right? That's probably another strategy they would deploy. If you're trying to crack passwords and you notice that the information you have on a person is that they put a word related to the website in the password, it's another piece of information that they want to leverage against you. And it's all about, like, finding weaknesses and trying to exploit them. And I just think people tend to do the head in the sand, it won't happen to me sort of approach to a lot of this stuff, rather than take the time to learn and secure your information. And again, how much of what I've said revolves around other things, like other websites. You go onto some obscure website, sign up for it with your email and your password, and you don't really know anything about the security of that website. You don't know what state it's in, who runs it, how easy it is to be exploited. And so you've got to assume, you've got to act like most of the time these things are insecure. Think about it like, yeah, if I told you, you need to use this website and it's going to get hacked, it's got terrible security, you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, maybe I shouldn't use my main email address. Maybe I shouldn't use that password that I use for every site, right? You're going to rethink your strategy a little bit. Right, let's split this up. I need some of those. Some of these. Then each of the stairs, basically. We got a noise in the ear, it's Bait and Anil here. 18 months, thank you so much, my dude. 2 Twitch babies, I'll give you 1. Also Daniel, we read yours, thank you again Daniel. JJB Martin for 10 months, and Skivo here with a Prime. Appreciate you. Dude, this made me rethink some choices actually, says Cycross. Good to hear it. Like, yeah, don't reuse passwords. Get a password manager. There's this other argument as well. A password manager, it's a single point of failure. Right? If they get your password manager, they get everything. Well, you've got to think of it like, actually, it's a reduction of surface area. It's like the one thing, but it's the most secure and the most difficult to get. And for that, you are far better off relying on the password manager. Xisuma, how do you read the chat while playing Minecraft? Do you use a second monitor or your phone? I got triple monitors. I gotta admit, I gotta say, going from double to triples, like, it felt excessive, and quite often I feel like I do fine with just two. But, you know, I got it now, so it's here to stay. Another important security tip. Two-factor authentication. Get it whenever it's available, right? Always check on a website. Is the two-step available? It means you've got to use your phone to log in, you know, or attach some 2FA device. It's worth the hassle. Put in the extra step. Makes it so much harder. Even the 2FA stuff, like a lot of this stuff is like always behind the curb. So even the 2FA using your mobile, it's like that was great at first, but now all the hackers or whatever, like it's known how to get around that stuff. It's still definitely harder. You know, the more of a target that you have on your head, the easier you are to hack, because essentially everything is hackable, right? You got to think though, you're not some politician in office who's a political target, right? When you're an average Joe, it's about how they have tactics for finding people with vulnerabilities. And so you just need to take the steps to avoid being one of those people, and 2FA is one of them. Like, if you're just average Joe, they're not going to bother trying to hack the 2FA stuff. If you're a politician or something and they've got a political agenda, then yeah, that stuff has its security vulnerabilities too. Anyway, get 2FA on everything you can. Another one, if you have a laptop, get encryption. Get your laptop encrypted. Right, if someone pinches it physically and logs in, you've got no idea how much information is on there. Right, I'm not talking about, oh, you got documents and pictures and la 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 la. It's like, did you browse the web on it? You got cookies full of information, login information, browsing history, so much stuff that can be on a laptop that can either be immediately of value to someone else, like log into your PayPal, or it can be leveraged against you in one way or another. The most common error on getting hacked is believing you got hacked and open a website to verify you're you, and boom, all your credentials got stolen. Yeah, so you can get like plugin extensions from your browser that verify that the websites you're on are legitimate. There's all sorts of tools. It's just worth looking in and learning about. So with this 2FA stuff and the passwords, like, finally the security generally on many popular websites is catching up to, like, you need 2FA. You need to have this, right? But now the security experts, they're past it. They're like, we need to get people not using passwords at all. And the latest thing is, like, we need, like, biometrics is the most secure thing. And you know, that's not going to get adopted anytime soon. It's always behind the curve. It's so fascinating how it works. So, like, the average thing people are doing is really far behind the security curve most of the time. This has made me rethink my data security. I think I'm going to get more 2FA on more websites, says Cookies the Cat Live. Hey, here's what I recommend doing. All these things are talked about, write them down on a list, put them to one side. You don't have to jump in right now and do it, but it's something you need to take care of. Like, on my list, I have a yearly, like, security review, if you want to call it that. And I just go through and I do all these boring tasks, like checking all the websites that I have accounts on. And it's like, do I really need an account on this website anymore? If not, I'll do a data request to have all my data purged from there. It's like, things like that, you know, that you can do. Get them on a list and just tackle them over time and become more savvy and smart about all of these things. And if you're totally motivated to go out there and start changing stuff right now, terrific, do it. But in general, it's like you want to get a whole bunch of these, like, security practices in mind and chip away at them, right? Slowly chip away at them. Oh, what happened down here? There's my 4. Let's go ahead and up it like that. So yeah, like when it's time for me to do my yearly review, I'll do all of these boring tasks like submitting, you know, deleting accounts, submitting data, removal requests for stuff I no longer use. Also, never save your credit card details on a checkout service, okay? Because then it's stored in their security, right? Like, it's down to their security if you're vulnerable or not. If you have a password manager, you can store your credit cards and stuff like that in the password manager, and it automatically enters them when you need them. So then, again, it's like you don't need the website to save it for you, and you can still have the convenience of it being saved somewhere. It's under your control. I never save my card info on websites anymore either. The time spent having to re-enter it is worth the safety. It is, but you can also use a password manager to remember it and not have to enter it yourself as well. I just reminded myself that there's actually an app that I use that has it saved. And I just need to remove it at some point. It's just, every time I use it, I don't think about it because it's so convenient. I'm like, hang on a minute. Wait, I did that yesterday. That's not what I'm saying you should do. Wabby Wouter, thank you ever so much for the subscription. Appreciate it, my dude. And of course, you need a password manager you can trust. Yeah, you got to put your trust in at some point, right? It's a matter of trust security. But do your research and look into different apps and figure out what one works for you. I had one in the past that I used a little bit, and its interface was clunky, and I didn't like it, even though it was really well rated for security. And then I found another one that was well rated that had a way better interface and started using that instead. You know, like, you gotta shop around, figure out what works for you. Okay, once again, I need to get way more slabs, don't I? Really been enjoying today's stream. Great stuff, says Wabby Wooter. Thank you. Appreciate you, my dude. We've had a right old waffle today. Theoretically, what happens if a hacker group gets hold of your fingerprint? You can't get a new one, says BB Quack. I'm not so well versed on why biometrics are the better way to go, so I can't really comment on that. Yeah, so that's kind of like where my opinion ends, really, is it sounds like they don't talk about one biometric, they talk about a multitude. So the idea is to create a password experience that can read several of your biometrics and then verify, right? And I think the idea is that biometrics are even harder to get than passwords, and that you know, a combination of them makes it even more difficult. At the end of the day, you can always say, what if they get this? You know, once we're on DNA passwords, what if they get your DNA? Like, the people doing this security stuff understand how it works really well, understand the weaknesses, and you just got to listen. You got to defer to other people that know better a lot of the time, right? If this is where they're saying it needs to go, probably best to listen to them. Haley Bailey says, I use Google's built-in manager. Is that bad? I would expect Google have incredible security, and I'm not comfortable using Google just because, you know, Google is such a big corporate structure with all their data hoarding. I just naturally kind of turn away from their password managers, but I can't really comment. I'm sure I would say it's probably very likely using their password manager, really great idea than compared to not having a password manager. I doubt it's going to be a case of like, no, you shouldn't use that or anything. It'd be hard for me to think it goes that way. I'm sure Google got it down. Oh look, I've been randomizing these, and then back here it's like, oh, that's not how we do it. Is that how it works there? Actually, I can't remember. I'm gonna randomize these anyway. I seem to remember randomizing these like way further back. Oops. when I built a road like some time ago. By the way, I probably built enough to get like an even bigger advancement, right? Anyway, the roads changing up and having different quirks of character is just kind of good overall, I think. So we won't worry about it too much. Hang on, I need those, and then I need these. And then, yeah, these ones are the gutter. Right, now I know what I'm doing. Yeah, it's these ones here that just need an extra block. I think both roads look better randomized. Says liquid parasite. That, well, I would happen to agree because I've been randomizing them, right? Cool, and a little bit of granite on the side. What we got room for? And then after that point, I think it's... Oh, there's a shop here, dang. Feel like... Okay, there's a couple of things here that need hooking up. Oh, the entrance is on that side, interesting. Yeah. So there needs to be a little hookup somewhere here. Back pretty much like straight up like that. We've got some stairs here. We might be able to wing something together on the fly. Let's try and use one of these more dominant than the others, I think. Probably look good for the whole thing. Something like that. It's a bit mishmash, but I think it will do. Right, we hooked something up as well. That's great. That's great. I feel like we could probably come back and add a few blocks and make it a little nicer with time. Let's fly up in the air and actually just get a little bit of appreciation for what we did today. I was supposed to do stuff with the LA trees, but I don't even care. So that's looking okay. Big grand old road through the middle of this area to hook up all these shops. It might even need to go up to the Arc of Champions, I don't know, but hey, we've got something together here now. So I feel like I probably just need to make this like ice thing collide, make it bigger, wider, and all that cool stuff. Rightio then. Peeps, are going to have to wrap it up right here. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like. What? Hang on. X, this is not YouTube. Oh, dang it. I got it wrong, didn't I? Big thanks to everyone who subscribed, resubscribed, donated, and cheered. I appreciate your support as always, and hope you were entertained. Thank you to the mods, the patrons, all the peeps gifting subs. I am going to go and raid a random Minecraft channel today. So I'm going way down the list, and they got these little tags now, so I can look for if someone is English or not, because we always seem to raid someone who's not English, and I'm seeing a lack of tags. Here we go. Right, got someone. Cool, just sending you to a random Minecraft channel. I don't know when I'm going to be streaming again tomorrow. I know that it won't be tomorrow. So I guess I will see you when I see you. Take care, everyone. Bye.